Denise. Denise. It's Denise. It's Denise. It's Denise. Denise. It's a podcast party. It's a podcast party. It's a podcast party.
I gotta say, I feel like we're besties now after this. What's up, guys? It's Denise Salcedo. Hey there, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It is October 11th, and we are here on F4W Online to chat about NXT here on Speak Now Pro Wrestling. I'm your host, Denise Salcedo, and as always, I'm here on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to chat about the events of the night. And today, like I said, we're going to talk NXT, and I got to be real with you all. I thought today's episode of NXT was fairly entertaining. I had a good time. I thought there was a lot on the show that I was very interested in. I'm looking forward to Halloween Havoc. I think the build for Halloween Havoc is starting to build up. Like, I feel more and more interested in the card and what they're doing with the show. I thought there was a lot of good stuff on today's show, more so than, there's some other shows that there's not always such great stuff, but I think this one definitely had more good stuff that outweighed any of the stuff that that was just mediocre or just there on the show, right? So I thought today's episode of NXT was a fun one. I think I even liked it more than last week, if I recall correctly. I'm trying to remember how I felt about things last week. Apparently, I already forgot. But the point is that I thought today's show was pretty damn entertaining for the most part. So we'll get into that shortly because we got a lot to cover. As I mentioned, we are making our way to Halloween Havoc, and there are some pretty entertaining matches also lined up for next week's NXT. So there's just a whole lot going on in the NXT world of things. But before we get into everything, just a heads up, everybody, for those of you who may be new here, if this is your first time watching the NXT post show, welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here. Please do not be shy. Introduce yourself, hang out in the chat. I do pull out comments as we move forward throughout the entire night. If you do want to help support this podcast, you are more than welcome at any point throughout the show to send in a super chat. If you do, they just help me stay funded here each and every single week. So those are always welcomed and appreciated. But let's go ahead and get right into everything that's going on here today on NXT. All right, so let's kick it off. We got a couple of people here who said, I'm going to get your guys' overall thoughts on NXT today. So let me pull up a couple of those comments here today. James wants to know, what date is the Halloween Havoc show again? I have it on my calendar. It is the 22nd. So that's going to be on a Saturday, which I'm so glad because I prefer Saturday shows over actually, no, I'm lying. Actually, I don't mind Saturdays or Sunday shows. You know what? I'm cool with either or. I started saying, I was like, wait, I'm not that passionate about Saturdays or Sundays. I'm good with either or. But regardless, that's going to be on the 22nd. So thank you so much to James for sending that in. But we got a bunch of people sending in their thoughts on the show. We got Ebony Prince here who says that they enjoyed the show. Raphael rates this an 8 out of 10. Mike New York says a good episode tonight. Zeno Hour says fun, easy episode. Haru Supremacy, NXT was all right. Christopher says NXT was good tonight, in my opinion. This is good, guys. This doesn't happen very often. If this is your first time on this stream and you're like, wow, they're so positive about NXT. This doesn't happen very often where everybody enjoyed the show for the most part, top to bottom, especially what I'm seeing here on the comments. So that's definitely good to see, honestly. All right, so let's kick things off with Bron Breakker. Actually, no, rewind. I'm excited to get your thoughts on Booker T and Vic Joseph because this has been the thing to talk about the last couple of shows. We started obviously with Smackdown where we talked about the new commentary team. Then on Monday again, the new commentary team. And then this was the first show with the new commentary team for NXT. As you guys all know, WWE did that whole big shakeup and Wade Barrett got promoted. He's moved on to the main roster for commentary. And now they sent over Booker T and we got Booker T and Vic Joseph here on commentary. So I'm curious to see what you guys thought about the commentary team because personally, so when I first saw the announcement of the shakeup and whatnot, I thought, okay, cool. For the most part, I saw the names for Raw and SmackDown, and I thought, all right, cool. And then I saw the names for NXT, and I started to worry. I was like, oh no, this is going to be really bad. For some reason, I just had like zero hope for what the commentary team would be with Booker T and Vic Joseph. Now, I will say this, like, I didn't think it was great by any means. I didn't even think it was like good, to be honest. It was fine. It was there. It's going to take a while for me to get used to it, I think, because, it is clear that there is, because, with Vic Joseph and Wade Barrett, obviously they knew what was going on each and every single week. And that was the thing of tonight, where like Vic Joseph had to be like, kind of explaining a lot to Booker T of like who this guy is, who that guy is. And we know that NXT is not a product, let's be real, that a lot of people are watching. Like there's select few of us that are still watching the show. So it was clear that, Booker T is unfamiliar with a lot of the talents and a lot of the people that are on the show. And that came across very noticeable on today's show. So that was one of the criticisms I did have. The other one is really just getting used to getting used to the voices and just the the chemistry between both commentators. With Vic Joseph and Wade Barrett, they would kind of like play off one another very well, in the sense that they kind of had their shtick for every little act and whatnot. One of the main ones being Toxic Attraction. We all know that Wade Barrett would be like, woo, all over the moon for Toxic Attraction. And obviously Vic Joseph would kind of shame him a little bit for that. It was fun. They would kind of play back and forth. And they had different shticks for different acts and different things going on the show. With Vic Joseph and Booker T, obviously, granted, it's night one, but I did kind of feel like it was a little bit of, Vic Joseph kind of having to pool to find new things to work with here. So I thought that what's crazy though is that I think today I thought that Vic Joseph did his best work on NXT commentary today. And it was more so because he was really the one that was like carrying the entire thing and making sure that, that those people that were tuning in each and every single week to NXT didn't feel like gypped that, we got this new team and now everything's fallen down. So I did think that Vic Joseph stood out to me a lot more today than he did the previous weeks with Wade Barrett. So, there were some things that I didn't like that Booker T did or said on commentary, and one of them was during the during the triple threat tag team match that we had. There was only one thing that I kind of thought was just like, come on. When he was talking about Malik and Idris, and we know that this was probably, I don't know, it feels like this, I'm going to assume, but from the looks of it, it sounded like this was the first time he was ever seeing them. So he was like, oh, I don't like these guys and that and this. I don't like them, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why is he like doing this? Like, this is not Malik's and Idris's character to be like not liked. Like, they're, for the most part, they're baby faces. So I did kind of feel like a little bit, I didn't feel it was necessary to really push forth that agenda for them. But then afterwards, it was weird because when they ended up winning the match, it was like if that never happened, it was almost like if Booker T never said that. Vic Joseph did bring it up, so it was a little bit awkward. And then also it got a little bit awkward when Toxic Attraction came out, because I think it took Booker a second to get what Vic Joseph was trying to say about Wade Barrett. So there were a couple of things that were noticeable, but for the most part, it wasn't as bad as I thought that it was going to be. So hopefully, it's just something that you got to get used to, a new pairing and new voices and all of that. So let's go ahead and see what people are saying. Oh, and I do have one more criticism, and I know that this is not even a criticism. This is more so of a something that could kind of get a little bit annoying. So I hope that we don't get too much of the shacky, quacky, dacky, whatever ducky thing, shucky, ducky, whatever the hell Booker T says about the duck and the shacky. Someone send it in the comments. All right. We hear that all the time in the post shows, right? And like, it maybe might have been cute the first couple of times, but after a while, it kind of gets a little bit like, oh, come on, let's come up with something new. I didn't like that at the end of the show when Bron Breakker came out there and freaking speared Ilya Dragunov into a whole other dimension. The one soundbite we had was Booker T going, that was a shacky, quacky, whatever moment thing that he was saying. So yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, oh God, I hope we don't get this like for every major moment where it's the same verbiage over and over. And that was one of the reasons why, Mauro Ranallo is personally one of my favorites, because he's the person that to me, like, not only matched enthusiasm, but he always came up with really great pop culture references that I personally enjoyed. And I thought he came up with different things all the time, right? Like different verbiage to use for the commentary. So that is one thing that I would like to hear less of. But let's see what people are saying here. This is from Scoucher Boy, who says that Vic did 95% of the work. He kind of did. And that's why I think today he stood out to me a lot. Like, to me, he was more impressive today than all the other times. And I never had an issue with Vic Joseph or anything like that. I like what he does. I think he does a fine job. And what he was doing with Wade Barrett was, they had their thing, right? They had their rhythm. So let's see what else we got. The Kaya Put says, I could listen to Booker T spout crazy all day. We got James here who says he wasn't a fan of Booker T on commentary. King of Hueca Mundo says Booker T is on commentary to wake up the people with this loud voice. Major Blood says Vic Joseph was great. I'd rather not have Booker T. Ricky says I really hate NXT commentary team. It's not good. More people saying that Vic Joseph really carried the commentary, and that was honestly what the major thing that really, really stood out here tonight was definitely that. James says, who announces Level Up now? I have never seen one episode of Level Up, so I can't even tell you. And thank you, guys. It's the Shucky Ducky Quack Quack. God damn. I've heard that a million times, and for some reason, I keep forgetting what it is. I just remember the Shucky part and something about a duck and the quack quack. All right, that's how I'm going to remember. Shucky, the duck, and the quack quack. Jesus. All right. So every major NXT moment from now on, we're going to get the background of Shucky Ducky Quack Quack moments. God dang, that's funny. All right. Well, it is what it is. All right. So it wasn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be, but it was fine. Vic Joseph did a great job of, making sure that, things ran smoothly and that there wasn't any awkward moments where somebody said something dumb or something. No, that didn't happen. Okay. So let's get right into the opening of the show. Now, I know I said that this show was pretty damn good, or at least pretty entertaining. And it was. However, I feel so bad because I had a big boo-boo on Twitter where the second match that happened on the show with Axiom and Nathan Frazer. I'll talk about that later on, but the gist of that was I did put that match over on Twitter, and I called it the opening match. And then someone on Twitter wrote to me like, Denise, the opening, unless you missed the show. And I was like, that wasn't the opening match? Because I remember Bron Breakker, doing everything that he did with, JD McDonough and Ilya Dragunov. But I was like, I don't remember a match. Bro, I had to go back to my notes to even remember that we saw Bron Breakker versus Javier Bernal. So that should tell you how I felt about Bron Breakker versus Javier Bernal, that I forgot it happened. Like, I remembered everything that happened afterwards, but I did not, for the life of me, remember Bron Breakker versus Javier Bernal. So that was pretty much the gist of that, and I felt bad afterwards. I was like, oh shit, I forgot that match happened. But this was legitimately a very quick win. It was a very fast match. Bron Breakker obviously gets the win, but what we actually need to talk about is what happened afterwards. So post-match, we see JD McDonough go up and confront Bron Breakker, right? And it was funny, too, because Booker did kind of spoil this moment as well on commentary. And I don't think a lot of people caught it, but I caught it. Because when JD McDonough went up to confront Bron Breakker, he was like, this is probably just going to be a face-off. And then it was just a very, very quick face-off. So it was one of those things where I was like, that moment was a little bit it wasn't like anything major where you're like, oh my God, that was spoiled. No, it was just a little thing that I caught on commentary, but whatever. So it ended up being like a really quick, they look at each other and this gets broken up because Ilya Dragunov comes out and he is basically, he comes out, he attacks Breakker. Ilya, to me right now, is the glue that is keeping me really interested in the main event picture. Like, obviously, I'm interested in Bron and JD McDonough, but to me, Ilya Dragunov is the person that is giving this match that extra feel, that extra subs. He is the substance to me in this match. Like, the reason I care about this upcoming triple threat match is because I care about Ilya Dragunov, and I have my hopes are that he's going to end up winning, but obviously we don't fully know yet for sure. But he really is the glue to me that is holding my interest in this story. And I feel like if it wasn't for the story right now that we got with Ilya, JD, and Bron Breakker, I would feel really, really disappointed in the main title picture with that we're seeing. So I'm so glad that they're there. I think JD McDonough, and obviously we're going to talk more about these guys later on because of the closing of the show, but I really do think that JD McDonough has also just been, he's somebody that I don't have to struggle to take seriously. And that's what I like. Competitors that I don't have to struggle to take seriously. JD McDonough has been great with, like, obviously the in-ring work, the facials, just like bringing the presence and fear and feeling like a force that you should be worried could come out and essentially take the title from Bron Breakker. And that's what you want. People that are believable, that are actually going to, take the title away from the champion. So that's kind of how I feel about the main title picture. I'm interested in it, but Ilya really is the one that I'm like, come on, baby. Like, I feel like I finally have somebody to root for, Like, that's something that could be that misses sometimes when you don't have somebody that you want to root for. It could be like you could lose interest in something, and it could be the thing that keeps somebody from tuning in one week and then not tuning in the next week. You need to have somebody that you're interested in, somebody or something or whatever, a story, whatever it may be. So let's go ahead and see what people are saying here. We actually got a super chat here from Sheldon Jackson, who kicks us off with super chat saying, Bron should lose the title. Any feud he's had with that title, I haven't really cared about. Take it off him, and I think it'll elevate the title. And I feel bad. And we've talked about this plenty before, but I'm pretty much along the same lines. I like Bron Breakker. I'm a fan of Bron Breakker. I think there's so much. I'm going to be so excited for him when he goes on to the main roster. But unfortunately, aside from his feud with JD McDonough and the stuff he did with Cameron Grimes, and even the stuff that he did with Santos Escobar early on, everything else has been like filler, somewhat even forgotten at this point. So I don't necessarily... Like, here's the thing. If Bron Breakker retains in this Halloween Havoc match, I'm not going to hate it. I'm not going to hate it because I do think they're still, with the added addition of JD and Ilya, I feel like they can still do a lot more where this doesn't have to be like the end-all be-all at Halloween Havoc. Obviously, I do want to see Ilya win the title, but it doesn't have to be like the end-all be-all for that match. So if Bron Breakker were to retain, I actually think it would be really great for Bron Breakker. Like, let's say he's not moving up to the main roster. Like, let's say he's not going to the main roster right now. Then I do want to see him. I wouldn't mind seeing him keep the title and keep doing, just as long as it's good storytelling surrounding that picture for that championship. If he is moving to the main roster, then obviously I would be good with either JD or Ilya getting the title. But my fan favorite, my personal pick would definitely be Ilya. So thank you so much to Sheldon Jackson for getting this in here. And let's see what else we got here and see what people are saying. This is from Justin, who says, it's hard to take Javier Bernal's character seriously. He acts like a huge star, although he's accomplished literally nothing on NXT TV. Well, I guess in a way it's like, he's getting started, but he's got some sort of, he's got some presence there. So it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't bother me at all. I thought Javier was like, okay in this spot and what he was supposed to do, because really he was really just a body for Bron Breakker to be and for us to move forward with this storyline and whatnot. We got so many different thoughts here. This is from the Kyopud, who says, it'll be a good match, but I hate triple threat matches where everyone's going to be set up to protect one guy, win or lose. I hope not. I think I'm looking forward to this match, honestly. I really am. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on from here. So after Bron Breakker and Javier Bernal, we get into the match of the night. In fact, this was a moment maker, I think, for at least the NXT product and for the new era of NXT. This was a moment maker, and this was the third match between Axiom and Nathan Frazer. And I have been critical of their first two matches because I did not care really for their first two matches. The first one I thought was just whatever. It's like, I didn't think it was that great. And I know a lot of people here liked it, but I was like, I've seen better. The second match, better, but even then it was still, I've seen better, you know? This third match, I have definitely seen better, but the point that I'm trying to get at for this third match though was that and I don't want to start it off by saying, oh, I've seen better. No, because they did a really freaking great job in this match. In fact, this was the match right here that made me a fan of both Axiom and Nathan Frazer. Like, this was the match that I was hoping they would have, and they did. Jesus, where do I begin with this one? So they were obviously tied 1-1, and this match here was basically going to determine who would be the final entrant into the ladder match that's taking place at Halloween Havoc for the NXT North American Championship. So Axiom and Nathan Frazer, you know, both new guys on the roster, haven't been there for too long, but they have both had pretty exciting starts in NXT. They definitely stand out from some of the other talent, right? And so for this match here, man, I'm trying to like figure out where I want to start off with this, but I'm going to start off by saying that the beginning of this match made sense too, because they were telling the story of like, oh, these are two guys that already know each other because, you know, they wrestled 2 times already before. Okay, cool. So they're familiar with each other. They're finding each other to know what the other person is going to do. So they're kind of like on the same page because they know what the other person is going to do. So that's what we saw there. But then as we continued on, the pace for this match was good the entire way through, but it kept speeding up as we moved forward with this. And I almost felt that with like every little thing. I'm going to focus on Axiom here really quickly, because Axiom, I thought, was the standout in this match. And that's not to take away anything from Nathan Frazer, but Axiom, I felt with every single moment, every single offense that he got, he only hit harder and harder. And I felt that as he went through, he was just like laying in everything so much more as the match progressed. And this one, I was trying to think of a good way to describe this match, because the best way that I like kind of felt as I was watching this match, I felt like they were like Axiom and Nathan Frazer were really, really fighting to prove something tonight. They were fighting to like, I don't know, just really get the crowd. And they did. The crowd really got invested in this match. They were reacting to all the right moments. And I know it because I felt like, as a viewer, I felt connected with this match too. And I was like, the moments where I was reacting, the crowd was reacting and everybody was reacting. So it kind of felt like everybody was, you know, really invested in this. So I was very, very happy to see that, because there are rare instances when you see that on, you know, this new era of NXT. But some of the great moments that we saw, we got a really great crossbody from Axiom that I thought was really good. There was a moment where Nathan got caught in a submission that I thought was awesome. Axiom had a really great springboard moonsault that I thought looked really good. Really great superplex from Nathan Frazer off the ropes. Axiom, when he hit that clothesline, I was really, really impressed by that one. It felt a little bit more hard hitting than some of the other stuff that we had seen. Love the super kicks from both guys, followed by the knee that Axiom hit. So at this point, it was just really, nonstop action from here. Nathan Frazer ended up getting the win here. But I did think Axiom was the standout, but I had absolutely no issue with Nathan Frazer winning this match. I thought he freaking did a great job. Both of these guys did a great job. And while I already felt that Axiom and Nathan Frazer were like good, this one really actually made me into a fan. Like, they were good, right? Everything was all right with them on NXT, but I wasn't yet a fan. Like, I wouldn't consider myself prior to this a fan of Axiom or a fan of Nathan Frazer. This match to me made me into a fan of these guys. And I obviously think that's a win for sure. So now for the Fatal 5-Way at Halloween Havoc, it's going to be Carmelo Hayes, Aro Menza, Wes Lee, Von Wagner, and Nathan Frazer. So that's where we're at with all of that. But we got a lot of people putting over this match. Raphael Smith says Axiom versus Nathan Frazer. That super awesome match tonight. A match of the night for freaking sure. So they went out there and they did what you were expecting them to do in terms of like when this match was first announced, when this best of 3 was first announced, this was the type of match that I think a lot of us had visualized that they would hopefully have, right? So this was good stuff all around. Zeno Hour says Booker became a fan of both Axiom and Frazer instantly. Yeah, you can tell that. I almost felt like during this match, he was thinking, all right, this is probably not going to be so bad after all. I don't know. That's what I was thinking he might be thinking, but that's just me inventing stuff. Fernando Zaya says this match was incredible. I had so much fun watching it. I feel this was a winner. This was definitely a winner. And that's why I forgot that freaking Bron Breakker and Javier Bernal opened the show. In my mind, this was the opener because this was anything. If there was anything to talk about, this was it. If you didn't watch today's episode of NXT and you were like, hey, there's a lot of people on here because I've seen them in the comments and they tell me like, I don't watch NXT. I just listen to the post show. I don't often say this, but I would actually go out of my way to watch Axiom and Nathan Frazer. So, thumbs up. All right, so let's get into the rest of this because this next portion here is probably was not the best, but let's talk about it. So Indy Hartwell, surprisingly, returns to NXT. Now, we hadn't seen her for quite a bit, and my assumption was that we weren't going to see her until maybe she went off to Raw or, whatever. I think a lot of us were expecting to see her with Dexter Lumis at some point, maybe after he finished doing whatever he's been doing to The Miz. I was expecting to see Indy Hartwell. And no, she's back on NXT. So she came out and she ended up having a match against Valentina Feroz. And how do I say this? This match was, and I've been saying this for a while now. I've said this on a couple of these shows, but for a while, I kept telling people, like, I don't see Indy Hartwell as a wrestler. I see her as a personality because, and I've mentioned this before, but her matches with Persia, it was all Persia. And we weren't really seeing Indy Hartwell go out there and have like these amazing matches or anything like that. But she was really connecting with the fans because of her character and the whole story with Index. And, even when she was with The Way, she was the one that I think benefited so much from The Way and the story and all of that. She really came forward as a person that you wanted to see on your screen because, she was funny and all of this. So to me, I started seeing her more as a personality. And that's why I'm like, okay, I was expecting to see her maybe go to the main roster and, resume this whole love affair with Dexter Lumis. And that's honestly what I was expecting from this. This match was not the best match. It definitely wasn't. And I think this was a reminder that there still needs to be more work for Indy Hartwell, like in-ring wise. Valentina Feroz, I thought she did a pretty decent job here. Like she was pretty fiery. She went in there with like all of these drop kicks that she did. I thought she did great on that end. There was a moment where Indy Hartwell goes in to get Valentina with a back elbow, and instead, she completely misses her, but Valentina still sells the move, but Indy never even touched her. So it was one of those things where I was like, this is rough, man. Like, this is a little rough here. Indy ends up getting the win with the vertical suplex, and she gets the win. Fine. I thought this was interesting because obviously with Indy coming back and this being her first match in quite a bit, she had to get the win here. But I personally think that Valentina kind of comes across as a little bit more well-rounded, more so than Indy in the ring. I'm actually a bigger fan of seeing Valentina wrestle than Indy Hartwell. So I did kind of feel like, because Valentina's not somebody that is, how do I say, like she's obviously hasn't had the time in NXT that Indy Hartwell has. Valentina had to take the L here, but realistically, I kind of like this felt like it felt like a win that had to happen but wasn't earned. if that makes any sense at all. Like, I feel like, yeah, you got the win, but there wasn't anything else to that, I think. So I do think there needs to be just like more there to be done for Indy for sure. So maybe that's why we're not seeing her on the main roster. I have no idea because that one I thought was a little bit rough. I couldn't really get into this one. Steven sends in a super chat saying, happy to see Indy Hartwell back. Hopefully they give her more to do. And maybe this can be the start of a good singles run. I think so. I think they need to have her go out there and prove herself. She definitely has to go out there and prove herself because in terms of like in-ring wise, I feel like we were seeing it for a bit and then we just stopped. It just became character, and that's it. So I feel like we got to get I feel like she needs to go out there and kind of like re-establish herself as a competitor. I don't know how else to describe it, guys. That's personally how I feel about that. Steven, thank you so much for sending in this super chat here today. We got more people here saying, Mohamed says, I think Valentina here was the better choice for winning. I think so too. And I kind of feel bad, feel bad for her because, her partner's out and she's just there trying to, I guess, stay afloat, and for the most part, like she's been pretty decent. She's been pretty decent from what we've been seeing week in and week out on NXT. Like I haven't had any issues or feeling like I had any issues with Valentina. Like I think she's been pretty okay. All right, so let's see what else we got here. Justin Martin says Indy is okay on her own. It's just hard to see her doing anything big without the Way or Loomis. Yeah, it does. It does kind of suck for her a little bit, especially now that like everybody is over on the main roster, having the time of their lives. So it does kind of suck that you got to be the one that's, not there yet. That must suck, honestly. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on from here. Let's see what else we got. So let's get into Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez. So I've been such a huge fan of this whole story. I've been loving it. All right, I love Cora Jade. I love Roxanne Perez. And I want to give a shout out here to Mackenzie Mitchell. Mackenzie Mitchell, I thought, did her best backstage interviewing tonight that stood out to me from any other night. I thought today they gave her like more lines. It wasn't just like question, okay, back to you. It wasn't any of that. They gave her a little bit more. They gave her a little bit more to show just a tad bit more personality, right? Instead of just being a mic stand. And so I appreciated that. I loved this little backstage segment that she had with Cora Jade. So basically what happened and what, we have already known heading into this is that we're going to get a pick your poison match. Cora Jade's going to pick the opponent for Roxanne and Roxanne's going to pick the opponent for Cora Jade. And they're going to be picking their opponents from the main roster. So Roxanne's going to be picking from the SmackDown side and Cora Jade is going to be picking from the Raw side of things. But basically, we had this backstage segment where Cora Jade is going off about how Roxanne has no friends and how is she possibly going to find anybody. And Mackenzie's like, well, I actually spoke to Roxanne and she's going to be at SmackDown on Friday and her DMs have been blowing up. And Cora Jade's like, what? Like she didn't expect that, right? So it was really funny. And then afterwards, she's kind of getting a little paranoid about, Roxanne, who she's going to pick for her as an opponent. So Cora Jade asked Mackenzie Mitchell, do you have Ronda Rousey's phone number? And Mackenzie's like, no, I don't have Ronda Rousey's phone number. And then afterwards, she like looks at the camera and she's like, I do have Ronda Rousey's phone number. So I thought that was a pretty cute little backstage interaction afterwards. Later on in the night, Cora Jade basically announces that because Roxanne Perez is going to go to the SmackDown side, that she's going to go to the Raw side and find an opponent for Roxanne. In terms of who these opponents might be, I don't know. Who I feel like they could go any direction in terms of who it may be. I feel like there's it could be like Dakota Kai, it could be Shotzi. I have a feeling it's going to be somebody that we've seen on NXT recently. So I have a feeling they're going to go that direction, but I'm hoping that they kind of give us a little bit of a surprise and maybe give us somebody that is that is a little bit unexpected, but not underwhelming. Like I don't want to be underwhelmed by the persons that come in to fill in these spots for both Roxanne and Cora's opponents. So I liked all of this. I thought this was really cute and I was a fan of this whole thing that they did with Mackenzie and Cora Jade throughout the night. I think that Cora is doing great work as a heel. So good stuff there all around. All right. So let's see what else we got. We got Ellen here who wants to know some Halloween Havoc predictions. We're going to go through them as we go throughout the show, but usually I do my Halloween Havoc predictions like the week of, like right before, once we know a little bit more of what's going on. And we still have one more NXT next week before Halloween Havoc. So I'll probably make my final predictions that Tuesday. Although I will say this, guys. So I did an Extreme Rules predictions video, and I did a little TikTok version of it because those videos are really popular. And so I did one, and it's funny because now I'm getting a bunch of comments on YouTube where people are like, wait, how'd she know because I got them all right except for one freaking match. I'm still super pissed about it. It's the Ronda Liv Morgan match was the only match that I got wrong. So it was funny though, because a bunch of people on YouTube were like, oh my God, she practically got them all right. How'd she know? She's psychic, whatever. So I felt a lot of pride in myself that I got most of those predictions right. So now I feel like I'm going to put a little extra effort in my predictions so that I could be known as the prediction girl. Although I don't think that's going to happen. That's very hard to do. But let's see what else we got. So yeah, thumbs up to this Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez situation. All right, so let's move in from here. Ed Jones has a funny comment. I can't not read this. Ed Jones says, Cora Jade will be going one-on-one with The Undertaker, playa. I did a terrible impression, but thank you very much for sending that in. That made me laugh. All right, so let's move on from here. All right, so let's see. Where am I at here? All right, triple threat match for the number one tag team triple threat match for the number one contendership to see who's going to face off Pretty Deadly. All right, so we had Briggs and Jensen, Malik and Anofe, and we had the Dyad. So this was the one where I mentioned that Booker T was like, I don't like these guys. And I'm like, Malik and Idris are like some of the most likable people on NXT. And I'm not saying they're likable because they're these big baby faces or anything like that. They just haven't done anything that would make you not like them. But he decided not to like them because they did a little bit of showboating. And it was very, very minor. It was just them being a little excited. I forget even what they did. But he was like, no, I don't like these guys. And I'm like, bro, what? But it was fun. I was like, what? Why do you, like, of all the teams to hate here, why was it Malik and Anofe? Like, the Dyad was there. Why not hate on the Dyad? So anyways, whatever. I'm just going to move on from that. But that was something that stood out for me for the commentary for today. Honestly, there was a moment from, on the outside of the ring where Briggs got Malik with like a very brutal clothesline. And I was so happy the commentary really put it over because that was pretty impressive. So that was a good moment during this match here. But we saw a lot of great teamwork from all these teams, mainly Malik and Anofe, and then Briggs and Jensen I thought were really great in this as well. But Malik and Idris are the ones that end up getting the win with the help of Cameron Grimes. So Cameron Grimes ends up taking out Joe Gacy on the outside, and then he pulls the leg of one of the members of the Dyad. I think, it was Fowler. So he pulls the leg out of from Fowler, gets him out of the ring so he can't break up I forgot if it was Malik or Idris that got the win here. But so he basically saves them, and that's how they end up getting the win. So first and foremost, hell freaking yes, because I feel like even when Idris Anofe and Malik Blade were like kind of a little bit, just getting started on NXT, and they were really like in the jobber role where they were just going in to get beat by like a bunch of other guys. Even when they were out there getting beat, they were pretty impressive. Like when they were doing their own singles thing on the show, and then they got paired as a tag team. And I thought, okay, like they've been pretty good. Like in a situation where you're the one that's supposed to be getting jobbed out, you don't always look so great. And these guys looked pretty decent. Like they looked way better than some of the other people. Then they started then they put them together as a team, right? And they started giving them some comedy segments. They had a couple of little corny comedy things. It was fine. It was cute. I liked it. And then afterwards, we ended up seeing them come together as a team. And they've kind of never been the team that I feel we're like, they're not always like in this very featured position. Like they're on the show, but they're not featured people on the show. Like they're not main cast members, okay? So, but they've sort of stayed a little bit under the radar. But if you're paying attention, they've been having good matches anytime that they're out there. They've been impressive, and they've had a lot of good moments on NXT. So I was very happy to see them get the win here. I think they're a good tag team, and I think they're only going to get better. I think like I don't know, a couple months, a year, I have no idea what the time is, but I do think that whenever their time comes, when they're, perfectly good to go to the main roster, I do think they're going to be a hella fun tag team. So I really hope that they don't break these guys up, because I do like them a whole lot as a tag team. I'm a fan. So what we got here. Christopher says this three-way tag team match was really good. We got Mohammed, who says that Josh Idris spot was amazing. Let's see what else we got. Pal Driver says, damn, that impression, shaking my head. I'm not an impressions person. I can't do impressions. Like, there are people that are really talented and can do all sorts of things, and one of them can be impressions. I don't got that in my, that's not a bone in my body. I can't do impressions. I suck at them really bad, but whatever. All right. So regardless, this was a good little thing for them, I think, for them to be the number one contenders. I think they're going to have a pretty damn good match with Pretty Deadly. So that's good stuff there. All right, moving on. Let's get into this next portion of the show, because I can't wait to talk about this. However, before I do move on and talk about the remainder of the show, just a friendly reminder, everyone. So this weekend, I will be back here tomorrow to talk about Aew Dynamite. They're going to be making their debut in Canada, so it's going to be a pretty exciting show. Their first international show, so this is going to be a pretty big moment for AEW. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot to talk about. So make sure you guys come in to Wednesday's show. That's usually my most popular show of the week. And then Friday, I will be back here. However, I'm only going to be recapping SmackDown. So for this Friday, I'm going to be here immediately after SmackDown. I'm not going to be recapping Rampage, and this has nothing to do with Rampage. It has all to do with the fact that I'm flying down to Mexico that night. So I need to be out of here within a good amount of time, because let me tell you something. LAX on a Friday night is freaking hell, okay? It is bumper to bumper traffic, okay? And I've been flying out a lot of Friday nights, so I kind of know what to expect already. And so I know that I need a good amount of time, and obviously I have to be there 2 hours before. So, all of that good stuff. So I will be here on Friday. And as soon as I'm done with my post show, I'm jamming and I'm leaving to Mexico, because I will be in Mexico for Triple Mania. I will be there, and I'm very excited about it, because I have never seen Lucha Libre in Mexico ever in my entire life. So this is going to be my first time being at an event there. And I've only been to Mexico City one time, and it doesn't even count, because I was in the airport. It was a pit stop because I was going to Cancun. So anyways, I'm really excited about that. So I'll see you here on Friday, immediately following SmackDown. And clearly they did announce that Bray Wyatt is going to be on SmackDown. So it's going to be, I think, an interesting show for sure. All right. So let's move on from here. Jacy Jayne versus Alba Fyre. This was a pretty fun little solid match that they had here. It was nothing bad whatsoever. It was a solid match. Happy to see Jacy Jayne get some singles action here tonight. I mentioned that Booker T didn't know the little, I don't know if he didn't know. I think he didn't know, because it took too long. It seemed like it took him too long to get the joke, because Vic Joseph was telling him like, oh, you know what Wade does? And Booker was kind of like, I don't know, you tell me. So it was a little bit weird. I was like, bro, whatever, right? It was not that big of a deal. So Alba Fyre gets the win in this match with the Gory Bomb. Good. She's obviously making her way towards Mandy Rose. That's the match for Halloween Havoc. But we need to talk about what happened after the match, because that's where we got the good stuff here. So after the match, Sonia Deville ends up coming out, and she attacks Alba Fyre. She ends up putting her through the commentary table and befriends Gigi and Jacy. Sonia Deville. So here we go. I liked this. I'm just gonna tell you, I was a fan of this because, you know, they've been doing a lot with Sonia on the main roster, some of which I wasn't a big fan of. Like, I wasn't a fan of everything that they did with her and Naomi. God, that was horrible. That was not anything good. And then since then, it's almost like they don't really know what to do with Sonia Deville. So it comes and goes. Like, there's certain weeks where I'm like, oh, this is good for Sonia. And then I'm like, oh, this is not great. And so having her come down here to NXT, like instantly, it felt exciting that she was there. And you know, we all know her history with Mandy Rose, and she did address this because they did a backstage interview with Mackenzie. And basically, Sonia Deville said that, you know, she knows that she and Mandy have had their differences. And we all know that was the storyline reason for Sonia Deville essentially leaving WWE, the storyline reason. And that was what, like a couple of years ago now? Don't even remember how many years now, but so she basically says, you know, I know we've had our differences, but she is still my best friend. And she says, because Jacy and Gigi are her girls, then they're my girls too. So I'm going to be here basically to have their back. So this was great. I thought this was fine. It was explainable. It explained what we needed to know. I'm glad that they explained it really fast. And we are going to be getting a match next week between Alba Fyre and Sonia Deville. And I'm really looking forward to it because I think it's going to be a good match. And also, Mandy Rose was not here. And on just a couple, like what? I think it was October 3rd was when the news story came out that her brother passed away. So condolences to Mandy Rose and her family because she did lose her brother. So yeah, that's, you know, why we weren't seeing her. So yeah, but I'm very happy to see Sonia Deville, and I'm looking forward to that match with Alba Fyre. So I think this is going to be good. This is going to be a good little replacement for the meantime until we get to Halloween Havoc and they do that match. All right, so let's see what else we got here. Pile Driver Finisher says, I would actually hope Sonia goes against Mandy, but who knows? Who knows? You know, they did have a fun little match when they did. Pile Driver Finishers, Denise scouting lucha talent for WWE. You swear. I mean, like, I can come on here and be like, I don't know why this person isn't hired. They should hire this person, but ain't nobody taking my word. Dan Perea says, to me, Sonia's appearances looks like a short-time deal. She'll probably lose to Alba next week to give her some needed momentum ahead of Halloween Havoc, and that's fine for me. Yep, I mean, she's heading into this big match, and I have I know I said I wasn't going to do predictions just yet, but my prediction is that Alba Fyre, I don't know if this is a prediction or just something that I want to happen, but I want to see Alba Fyre become NXT Women's Champion. And I've been saying this a million times. So it's my prediction because I want it to happen. Thank you, Dan, for sending this in. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and move on from here. After this, we got Wes Lee versus Channing Stacks Lorenzo. Happy to see Lorenzo get some, get a match here, really, because I was trying to think back, like, it's not often we get to see him wrestle on NXT, you know, for the most part with Tony D'Angelo. Tony D'Angelo is the focus of that whole thing. And even when Stacks was out there, it was all storyline stuff and that and whatnot. And, you know, they obviously did have some tag team matches, but singles wise, I don't even think I remember the last time or if we saw Stacks in a singles match. If we did, I don't even remember. So what I'm trying to get at here, I felt like, okay, this is good. Like, we get to see him, get to see what he can do on his own. Perfectly fine. It's against Wes Lee. Wes Lee, we've talked about a million times on this show. We're trying to figure out the pieces here of Wes Lee, and we're trying to pick them all up and see what happens with Wes Lee, since a lot of stuff hasn't really been connecting with him. But the point is here, this was a fine little match that they had. Wes Lee gets the win. It was an okay match. There's really nothing else to say about it. It was fine. Wes Lee gets the win, but after this, he's attacked by Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams because, as you recall, he's going to be in that NXT North American Championship match. Oro Mensah runs out there and he helps out Wes Lee. So I'm assuming they're probably going to do a tag team match. They didn't announce anything that I recall, but I'm assuming they're probably going to do a tag team match prior to Halloween Havoc. That's my assumption there. But later on, Tony D'Angelo does tell Stacks that next week on NXT, he's going to have an opponent that apparently he's going to know once the music hits. So we don't know who it is. It's a mystery opponent. So that's kind of like the theme of next week. We have a lot of mystery opponents because we got the Pick Your Poison match, mystery opponents for Cora and Roxanne. We got this match here where it's going to be Stax versus a mystery person. And then there's also going to be a trios match, and Grimes is going to have 2 mystery partners, which we do not know who they are yet. So mystery is the theme for next week. All right. After this, what did we got here? Let's see. All right, Roderick Strong. I forgot Roderick Strong. Dang. You already know I'm not a fan of this Diamond Mine storyline. I swear to God, when this whole thing happened, when he came out with the neck brace, I was like, Roderick Strong's still on this show? Oh yeah, he's still on the show. I forgot. Creed brothers are still their friends too. God, I could not be less interested in the Creed brothers and Roderick Strong together. I like them all, but I like them all separately. It's like when you don't want your food to touch on the same plate anymore. No, that's kind of how I feel about this. So the whole thing here is Roderick Strong's in a neck brace after the events that unfolded with Damon Kemp. Roderick Strong says to Julius, because we're going to get Julius versus Damon Kemp at Halloween Havoc in an ambulance match. And in that ambulance match, if Julius loses, that means that Brutus is going to be gone from NXT, which a lot of us predicted probably means that he's going to the main roster. We don't know for sure yet, but that's kind of a prediction. And so Roderick's basically like, I'm sorry, I'm the reason that that this all happened. I'm the one who brought in Damon Kemp, and Julius just promised me that you're going to defeat Damon Kemp, that you're going to defeat him and Diamond Mine forever. God, I need them to break up. I have never wanted anybody to break up more than the Diamond Mine and Roderick Strong. I think at one point I thought they broke up. God, it's been a blur. They've been doing this story for a very, very long time. It's all a blur now. It's all a blur. Let's see what else we got here. Ed Jones says, I could not be less interested in the Creed brothers should be a t-shirt. See, not really, because I am interested in the Creed brothers. It's just that I'm not interested in the Diamond Mine anymore. Like, I'm not interested in the Diamond Mine. I think, and someone said it here a couple of weeks ago on the chat, they were like, ever since Malcolm Bivens left, like the whole thing just completely unraveled. And I do agree with that. I think Malcolm Bivens was kind of the glue that held the group together. I love the Creed brothers, but I like them on their own, God, has it really been since May? Says Mom Ed. Has it been since May? God damn. June, July, August, September, October. That's 6 months. Okay, well, there you go. God dang. I didn't even realize it's been that long. All right, so let's see what else we got here. This is a comment from Joseph Boza, who says, I've never been a fan of the Diamond Mine in NXT. It reeks of them keeping Roddy in NXT after Undisputed Era ran away to AEW. And I mean, those reports came out that, Roderick Strong wanted outs. Can't blame the guy, though. Can't blame the guy. And then the character that Roderick Strong has been doing on NXT since May, apparently, it's been not good. Kiana James versus Thea Hale. Unfortunately, I didn't catch Kiana James got the wins, guys. I can't even review this match because I was doing something else during this and I never went back to watch it. So I'm going to skip this one. Sorry. Let's get right into the main event here. So we already talked about next week and all of the surprise matches that are going to be happening. So let's get into Ilya Dragunov versus Grayson Waller. I'm a fan of Grayson Waller, huge fan of Ilya Dragunov. We're going to have Grayson Waller versus Apollo Crews at Halloween Havoc. That's going to be a thing. We already know this. They've been telling the story for a good amount of time now. It's been good. I'm interested. And for the most part, they gave Grayson some offense throughout this entire match. They gave him some stuff. It was fine. Obviously, Ilya got him with those hard chops like right in the beginning, but they did give Grayson a little something throughout this match. But Ilya ends up winning with the torpedo. And obviously, that makes sense. Ilya is the one heading into this triple threat match for the NXT World Championship. So I don't think we were expecting anything otherwise. Post-match, we have Bron Breakker a spear Ilya Dragunov as Ilya is doing his celebration. And that's when we got the big old moment of the shucky, ducky, quack moment. So I'm looking forward to this triple threat. I really am. It's going to be a shucky ducky quack quack kind of a match. Alrighty, guys. That was NXT for today, October 11th. I will be back tomorrow for Aew Dynamite's debut in Canada. Thank you to everybody who tuned in to today's show. If you are an NXT fan or you just want to be kept up, you just want to be kept in the loop of what's going on, please come here each and every single Tuesday and I give you a quick recap with a couple of opinions thrown in there and we have a good time. So please make sure to keep coming back each and every single week. If you do like this podcast, let your friends know, tweet it out, spread the word. I'm constantly seeing that stuff. If you tag me, please, I will make sure to retweet you and all of that. I'm constantly retweeting people that help promote these shows because that's the best way to spread the word and get these podcasts to grow and just grow the viewership and all of that. Also, if you haven't already, please make sure to follow me on Twitter at _ Denise Salcedo. I am about 16,600-ish followers away from getting to 100K. And it is my goal to get to 100K by the end of the year. And I don't know why I make these ridiculous goals for myself, but they keep me going. So please make sure to go and follow me on Twitter at _ Denise Salcedo. Until next time, I will see you back here tomorrow for AEW Dynamite. Bye, everyone.